This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 124. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the season's coming to a close, everybody. I know we're still skiing here. We got a little bit of snow. I know a lot of people their local resorts have closed down. They might be heading into the backcountry a little bit. And for some folks where it's just not as high elevation, it is done. So, wishing you all the best in spring if you have completed the Telemark turns for the year. So, not a lot of news here. The rest of the crew took a nice spring break to refresh the brain after a hard work season last week and are back in as of today. So, if you've been reaching out to the shop, good chance they'll get back to you this week as they're catching up on things. And good to have them back. So, my guest today is an awesome person that I've known for quite a while. She's a former Telemark World Cup racer, a Telemark Freeski competitor, and a current ski patroller. She grew up skiing in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but now is a resident of the beautiful state of Montana, where she works and plays in the winter months, and in the summer, she is guiding on the river. So please welcome to the podcast, Madi McKinstry. All right, Madi, welcome to the Freeheel Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. I feel like it has been since before COVID. So.
Has it been like 2 years?
Yeah.
2+ years?
Yeah.
I don't even know what. It's 2022.
Mm-hmm. And I was last year in 2019 for World Tele Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Oh, yeah, you were down here for that.
Uh-huh.
That would have been like right before shit hit the fan.
No, because it's...
2019. That would have been 2020. That was the year before.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. Funny enough, we were downstairs. Just I was looking in the shipping area, and I forgot. Nate was asking me to look for a face shield for making skis, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I have some face shields. And there's like this whole stack of like sanitizer bottles and like face shields and stuff, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with these things? So, anyways, weird memories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like you just got off the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you walk around in ski bibs.
Yeah, I just want people to know that I ski, so I'm just always in them.
How do you feel about hanging goggles from your rear view mirror? Is that like an acceptable thing in 2022?
Well, I would just say that ask yourself, during COVID, did you hang your mask off your fucking rear view mirror? Because if you did that, then...
Oh. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I always felt like it was like a social faux pas to hang your goggles from your rear view.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an old thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a weird flex.
Yeah. I'm dating myself already, and we're like 2 minutes into the podcast. Old man flex. Okay, so you're down here. You don't live in Salt Lake.
No.
You live in Bozeman.
Yes.
Which I think that was the original Angeles ending, was in Bozeman, I think.
Yeah.
Now it's Los Angeles, but I think Bozeman owns that.
Right. Well, like you have Bozeman, but then they named like Los Angeles after Bozeman. So, I mean, there's obviously the original one.
Things have changed in Bozeman from when, again, long time ago. How is it living in Bozeman right now? I haven't really been up there in like 10 years.
There's kind of, it's good. I love Bozeman. I've been there for 10 years and like I love it and don't foresee myself leaving anytime soon. But I feel like there's a lot of like contention and ego growing there, and like just like more local stuff of people who've been there a long time, like not wanting the growth and progression. And it's like, well, we're all going to end up living where we want at some point in our lives, hopefully, if we're lucky enough. So if people are moving to a town, it means it's fun and cool, and people just want to have fun and do cool things.
So do you feel like, 10 years, you're local at that point, I would say, but you're talking like crusty old, live there in the 70s kind of people?
Well, not even them. It's just, I guess it would be people who've lived here or there for 10 years or longer, or even people who've been there for like 7 years. I don't know. It's like a weird, I don't know. People just have their ways, I guess. They're like, I don't know. The whole thing is we all moved there at one point, and now more people are moving, and the people who have already set up and like established there are like, get out of our town, like you're raising the rent. And it's like, okay, well,
yeah,
I don't know how to
I think
that.
that's going on everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, it's happening here. It's crazy. I think they're saying that rents are going to go up like 20% this year, which that's interesting. I'm interested to see how that does for the ski bum culture.
Yeah.
Like, can you afford to not have a job and like ski in a ski town now? I don't know. That's debatable.
Honestly, probably not. It would depend on what you did in the summer, I guess. But yeah, that's really stressful.
Yeah. Well, so you're originally, let's talk a little bit about, you're originally from, were you born in Steamboat?
No, I was born in Elko, Nevada, and lived in Spring Creek, Nevada until I was 12.
Okay.
And then we moved.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's right. Your dad and I were talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Cause he works in mining industry. I think
Yeah.
as an engineer or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got a degree in geology. So like growing up, I was the gold miner's daughter, and then he turned into a molybdenum miner, which is like, molly wax that makes your skis go fast in the springtime.
Yeah.
Like molybdenum is in there, so it makes steel harden, and it's a really good like water repellent too. Dad, if you're listening, I'm probably botching this, but that's how I understand it. And then he turned into a coal miner, and now he's retired.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. So you were 11, you said, when you moved to Steamboat?
12.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
So early memories. I mean, not that there's not good skiing out by Elko, kind of in that zone.
I mean, the Rubies.
The Rubies are pretty close.
Yeah.
But moving to Steamboat and kind of were you guys already skiers at that point, like growing up?
Yeah. So like, essentially, my dad was on the University of Wyoming ski team, and he raced for them alpine. And when we lived in Nevada, my grandpa lives up near Driggs, like in Alto, Wyoming. And so I learned to ski at Targhee, and we went up there a lot. And while we still lived in Nevada, we were coming out here pretty much every weekend, skiing like Alta, Snowbird, Solitude, Snow Basin. I think those were the main ones. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started tellying, I think we were at Park City, and I was on this janky little setup, and then we went over to Alta for a couple days, and I remember getting hooted and hollered at from the Collins lift, and it was like, because there was a kid on tellies.
How old were you?
10.
So you started telling when you were 10?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did your dad start telemarking? You said he raced alpine.
Uh-huh.
When did he start, do you remember when he started telemark skiing?
So he was coaching, and then he kind of got sick of coaching and was like, I need to make skiing fun again. And that's when he switched to telly. I want to say it was like maybe 87, but again, he could fact check me better. But yeah,
probably should have had your dad on too.
Yeah, but late 80s, I think, is when he picked it up.
Nice. And so, do you have brothers and sisters, or are you only child?
I'm an only child.
Perfect.
That's why I'm so weird.
Oh, whatever. So you learn. I mean, 10's pretty young, and so this is prior to moving to Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever like? I know around that time there was definitely like a youth telemark program.
Yeah.
Were you a part of that?
Yeah. So there was the Tele Devo program when we moved there, and my dad was like, "Oh, sign her up! Like, there's a telemark program with the Winter Sports Club. That's awesome!" And it was Kara Mars, Dave Mars.
Oh yeah, I remember the Mars.
Yeah,
those guys are awesome.
Mm-hmm. And Matt. So yeah, that was like kind of the beginning of it, and then I can't remember if nationals were in Steamboat in 2007, so the winter of 2006-07, or if there was just one like U.S. team race. And my dad was like, yep, sign her up. Like, if she's not going to be an alpine racer, she can be a tele racer. And it was really fun and an awesome community and great coaches. So it kind of just spiraled into the tele race program. And I can't remember if they were divided at that point. It was like the Telemark program, and then it was either developmental or race.
What was developmental? Like learning?
Yeah. So it was like kind of younger kids, or, like older kids that had just started telemarking. So it would focus on how to ski bumps and like how to ski POW, and even the race program. The rule was if it snowed more than 6 inches, we would cancel training and go skiing.
Dude, sweet program.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least you're teaching kids not to slip gates on a powder day.
Yeah, totally.
That's like the worst. You're like, oh, it's race day, and it's like 6 inches, and people are like slipping all of the snow off the side of the course, and you're like, oh man, this is terrible.
Yeah.
That's cool. I bet that was some good memories, because I think you guys used to ski at Howelson, right? At Howelson Hill.
Yeah.
And like for people that don't know, explain Howelson Hill, because it's kind of a unique spot. I mean, I've actually never skied there, but we used to show when I was making movies, we'd show them at the
Olympian Hall.
Exactly, Olympian Hall. It's cool, and you could see like out to the resort. But yeah,
the resort.
The ski jump and the resort.
Yeah.
Explain it to people, kind of the culture around that thing.
Yeah, so Howelson is a super old hill right in the town of Steamboat. You can ride your bike there from Main Street, essentially, and it's just across the river. And it's an awesome little hill. It's got a bunch of mountain bike trails on it now, but there's a small Palma lift, and then it's just the most epic slalom hill, really. Like alpiners love it for slalom. I think you can get probably 3 or 4 lanes across the whole hill, and then there's a perfect knoll for telemark purposes for building jumps for races, and then there's a little section that's for freestyle moguls and bumps, and then there's 3 separate Nordic jumps as well. And I don't speak Nordic really, but but you've got like the regular-ish one, and then there's the medium one, and then there's the big like Papa Bear in the middle, and then they have even babier ones off to the side. And as the program developed at the Winter Sports Club, they put in like a small magic carpet off to the side. They put in a tubing hill, and then there's a chairlift as well. So it's like a little community center for the town. And Olympian Hall is where they have all the flags from different Olympics of all of the athletes that went from Steamboat. So it's really a really cool thing to have your name hanging in Olympian Hall if you've ever been to the Olympics.
Yeah. So because you guys have a pretty decent Olympic culture, right? History.
Yeah.
I guess Billy Kidd. That's kind of like the steam. When I think Steamboat, maybe that's because I grew up kind of in the 90s. I think Billy Kidd was like, you always saw the guy in the cowboy hat skiing in Steamboat, skiing in the Aspens, and it was like kind of a thing. But I guess a lot of ski jumpers probably come out of that area. There are a lot. Todd Lodwick. There's a bunch of Nordies that I'm gonna space right now, but even like bumps and more like snowboard cross, we've got like Mick Deerdorf and Jalen Koff and a bunch of people that have been to the Olympics in more recent years. Taylor and Ariel Gold, the brother-sister duo, were in Steamboat for a while, the snowboarders. So that's awesome.
A bunch of kids.
So you're doing the Telemark program, because where I think I first heard your name was as a racer. I obviously associated you as a Telemark racer. Did you think when you started this program, your dad signs you up, or are you like thinking, this is what I want to be as a Telemark racer? Or was it just kind of like run me through that. I'm kind of curious how that worked out.
Yeah, well, essentially, like, since both my parents tellied growing up, I would always be like, Mom, Dad, look, I can ski like you. And I'd put like my uphill foot back, even though I had alpines on. So it was just a matter of when will I be old enough to fit into my mom's old boots. And when we when we moved to Steamboat and had the luxury of chairlifts all the time, every day of the week, well, besides school and stuff, it was kind of like, I could progress the sport, my development in the sport further. And the race program just ended up being one of those things that so many people in Steamboat were part of the Winter Sports Club and were alpine racers that I wanted to go fast too. And I don't know, I think at 12 years old, you could probably still be a pretty decent alpine skier and racer and maybe even race for college. But generally speaking, you don't. Like, you're in race programs as a kid, and then that's like what you do. But when I started getting like good results racing, it became pretty clear that was really fun, and I was into it and having a good time. And there was always the possibility of going to the World Cup looming, and all of those races are in Norway and Switzerland and Slovenia and Austria and France. And so it's a really cool community, and you get to travel a lot once you get to that level. So I was always just trying to get on the national team. And the national team was really fun at that point too. We had like Shane Anderson and Corey Snyder and Maggie and Cole Doherty. But yeah.
Was Charlie Dresden, was he one of your coaches? Yeah,
Charlie was one of my coaches. Shane was one of my coaches for a while, Shane Anderson. And Ty Upson was kind of one of my last coaches before college.
Yeah.
So, because he was the national coach, I think in 2011, he started being the U.S. national coach. So he was cruising on that for a while.
Yeah, because I think you guys in Steamboat, that kind of became like the hub for a while. Like Whitefish used to be the hub in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And then kind of around like 07, 08, I think Steamboat kind of started taking over that, right? Like where most of the U.S. team was based out of there, if I remember right.
Yeah, we had like Lauren Paley and Erica Walters and Ben Paley were all there, and Jeffrey Gay. There was honestly, a lot of heavy hitters in Steamboat at that point.
That's funny. Yeah. And that's, so what year did you make the World Cup team? The U.S. I guess U.S. national team is more specific to it, but then that's who's racing at the World Cup. Yeah. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's the U.S. national telemark team. But I made that in 2009. So
wow.
Yeah.
How old were you?
15.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So did you get to do your first World Cup at that age? Whoa. How was that? What was that experience like?
Well, it was in Bjorli, Norway, and it was
just a casual first stop on the World Cup tour.
Yeah. Just like, and also like, who's ever heard of Bjorli, Norway?
Where is that? Do you know?
I think it's like 2 hours away from Rjukan, because we went from Bjorli to Rjukan.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Rjukan was sick.
That place is dope. Yeah.
But Bjorli was, and I can't remember all of the conversions, but basically it was a half a degree too cold to host a FIS race. So it was like negative 20 and a half like Celsius or something, or wherever they meet, maybe. It was really cold.
They have like a FIS cutoff for temperature?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So if the athletes and the gate judges and the start refs and everything, like, they don't want their people to be out in the cold and getting frostbite. I mean, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. It's like safety precaution.
Yeah. And so I remember like waiting around for it to warm up a half a degree. And then Eric Reikus was the like powerhouse at that time from the Norwegian team. And I hadn't really ever I had never met anybody on the World Cup before. So I was just like bright-eyed and like, whoa, all these people are so fast. And Eric was throwing his skis down on the snow with whatever like top wax he had just put on, like the rub-on stuff. And it just like wouldn't even move. And then he had like his ski tech and his coach and maybe a couple other teammates, and they were all bent over watching these skis just not move on the snow, kind of scratching their heads.
Cold.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So that was a really funny first race. It was DFL, which is dead fucking last.
On that note, Eric Reich is like an amazing skier.
Yeah.
Because I got the one World Cup I participated in, not at your level, but he must have been like 15. It was like early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
And he was badass. And I remember watching him and being like, oh my God, like these guys are a whole nother level. I wanted to hit on that too, because for people that don't watch telemark racing, I guess, how can you at least from my perspective, the level is so much higher than I think people would realize. Like when you see it in person, like, I don't know, like what's your feeling on racing, now, like when you watch those athletes? I mean, I guess, how can you explain it to someone who has not seen it? Like the level of, I don't know what I'm trying to get across here. Like the level of commitment that goes into that. 'Cause I mean, these are really, really high level skiers.
Yeah.
I mean, what goes into that, being on a national team, I guess? Yeah.
So, I mean, thinking about it now, 'cause it's been equal years of me being off of the U.S. team and like living life and loving it. Not to say that I didn't love my time on the like World Cup. I really did, but there came a point where I just wasn't in love with it anymore and I had to move on. But yeah, like thinking about it now, I'm like, wow, I spent so much time in that weight room at Hallison Hill, and I went to MSU and trained with their Alpine team all of college, but was still a telemark racer, which was super awesome. But like thinking about having our morning weightlifting sessions and then like going to class, or whether that had been like high school or college, and then you'd go back for more weightlifting in the afternoon, and like plyos and running and biking and doing all the things. There was a lot of dry land that went into it. And then once you got to the winter stages, you'd have early morning lifts, and then like weightlifting, and then you would catch the lifts at 1:00 on the ski hill and go train from 1 to 4. And then for telemark, there's a skate section on all the races, so then we would go out and go Nordic skiing, or take our telemark skis with our cross country poles and do a bunch of training and like skating that way, like up cat tracks or wherever we could really find. Sometimes we would get the groomers to build the Rappaluchas, which are the big 360-degree bank turns, for those of you who don't know what that is. The French call it a loom. We call it the wrap. So yeah. So sometimes the groomers could like build those for us, and then we could get loom or wrap practice in as well. But yeah, I mean, it took up a lot of time, and being an outsider now, looking in at the World Cup and seeing Jazz Taylor still crushing it, and Johanna Holtzman's traded over for ski cross, but she'll dabble every now and again. Like Argeline Tan still crushing it. Beatrice Zimmerman from the Swiss team. Like Amelie Ramon is still there. You think about Amelie's training, and she's been skiing at a super high level for a really long time. So it's like they're just athletes. Like they're these little powerhouses. Well, not little even. Sorry, ladies, I didn't mean to call you little. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, they're all just these units of muscle and speed and pure determination. And I think that's essentially, like, if you wanted to compare it, just think of Michaela Schifrin. Like, it's legit racing. It is World Cup level. It's FIS sanctioned. It's intense. Yeah,
and I think because I think Jasmine, she just got like 3 World Cup medals, I think, just like a week or 2 ago.
Yeah, they had their well, I can't remember if it was a World Championship year or if it was just World Cup finals, but either way, I mean, being on the podium or in that top spot for World Cup finals even is awesome for an end of season. So yeah, I think that's a good description. I mean, the amount of time that goes into that, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong though, because it seems like U.S. athletes, not to say that European athletes don't have maybe the same difficulties with racing, but it seems like there are countries, I think, still with telemark racing where like national teams there's some funding. Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm not totally.
Yeah. I mean, the Norwegians and the Swiss both have like car sponsors.
That's legit.
Like, how sick would that be to have a car sponsor so you could travel as a team and like, yeah.
See, and I think that makes a huge difference because the amount of, I don't think it's necessarily a money thing when we talk about sponsorships that way, but I think it's difficult to focus on your craft. I always liken it to painters. Like people think sponsored athlete, oh, this is this great thing being sponsored, but I think it's like saying like a painter that has to focus on working another job in order to buy the paint and buy the canvas and buy the brushes to then create the product or create the art is less likely to have more time to be inspired to create the art. And I think like skiing's the same way. It's like, it's got to be almost a little frustrating too. Like if you're over here in America, you're all like, I'm on the US team, I'm training my ass off, I'm broke. And then you're like going to another country and you're like, oh, they're rolling up in their car sponsor and you're like, oh, you guys have like a lot more time to practice. And I get it. Life's not fair, but it does put some resources in the court of these people that can focus full time on it. And it pays off, I think, Yeah.
And a lot of them too, like when I was racing, a lot of the people were still students like me, or they did have jobs. So it wasn't totally just given to them, but it's just that, they do have kind of the leg up in that sense of it's more not necessarily popular in Europe, but sports are just like a higher focus. So even the more obscure sports, if that's what you want to call it, still have these sponsorships because it's like, oh, the German national team for Alpine has a sponsorship with someone. Well, then the Telemark team will also get it because they're all in the same, it's all the same.
Like organization.
Yeah. Whereas the U.S. Telemark Association is not affiliated with the U.S. national ski team. So if we could combine, then like, we would get Land Rover and Berea and like all the stuff that they get as well. But it's just not the same because nobody cares.
Whatever. I think the FIS. Okay, correct. Can you say FIS? Or do you have to say FIS?
Oh, no, I call it FIS all the time. But
okay, FIS.
Some people, I don't know. Yeah, it's whatever you want to call it.
The Federation Internationale of Ski or whatever.
Ski.
I don't even know what language I was trying to imperson.
You were rolling with it.
Now I can't even remember what the hell I was going to say. I think they've, for as small and maybe like obscure as it is, I think it is cool that you can now follow like some of the live streams and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you can find those. So like listeners, if you're interested in seeing what telemark skiing looks like, you can find these live feeds from the FIS races, which I think is cool. Like, even if you're not a racer, I think they're, from an athletic standpoint, I mean, it is pretty incredible what racers can do.
Yeah.
Final question on racing, then we can move on. Should it go Olympic?
I think so.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, all right.
Not to just cut you off, but.
Well, okay. So tell me why. Give me like your elevator pitch. Why should Telemark be Olympic? And since it hasn't made it into the Olympics, why do you think that is?
So the reason it hasn't is because we simply just don't have enough interest. I think you need a certain amount of countries. And right now, I want to say there's probably 12. Honestly, I'm not as involved in the racing community as I used to be. Like, I follow it all on Instagram still, but I'm not like combing through results and looking at how many country representatives we have. How many countries are represented there? Jeez, English is hard.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's simply a lack of interest, but I think the cool thing about Telemark is a race incorporates a jump for distance, and it's always GS format, like an alpine race, which I know alpine races have more, but similar too. And then a skate section and that Rapaloosa. And now we have the parallel sprint that they introduced in like 2011 or 2012, where it's head-to-head racing, and they're on separate courses, but then they go into the same wrap. So then you've got a little bit of element of like skier cross. So it really wraps up all kinds of winter sports and puts them all in one, or the more traditional ones if you want to go that route. It's really fun to watch, and it's pretty skiing, and those athletes work their asses off. So they deserve the Olympic stage for sure. And then I also think another reason that it's not is, so there's gate penalties associated with every turn and every jump, every landing. So if you're not making the perfect turn, like if you don't have boot spacing, or if you pause too long in a parallel stance as you're going around a gate, you get a second penalty. If you jump and don't clear the line, it's a 3-second penalty. If you don't land in a telemark stance, it's a second penalty. So like, it used to be that each judge had a gatekeeping card, and they would mark down penalties. And then they would have to wait once a racer crossed the finish line, take it up to the timing shack, and then like calculate all the penalties there, which is a super slow process. So when a racer crosses the line, you're not sure who won. And so I think that, takes away from the spectator aspect of the sport, because nobody wants to watch a race where you don't know who wins. But nowadays they're way better on the like technological aspect of it, where the gatekeepers, push buttons. And so when you cross the finish line, So I think the technology is catching up to the point where if we could just get it to be a demonstration sport.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be a demonstration sport for 2022. And for 2018? I don't know. There was talk of it.
And then it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. And again, I'm not totally sure why, but...
I wondered if you'd bring that up, because I've always thought, from my limited proximity to it like 20 years ago, the subjectivity of the judging, I always thought was something that was holding back, like the boot spacing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know if the boot spacing's correct? I mean, It's not just timed. There was kind of that other aspect to it. And I mean, that makes sense that technology could help that. Mm-hmm. I like the head-to-head format.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer they don't do slalom anymore. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there was that many good telemark slalom skiers, to be honest, but it was fun to watch. I don't think it was ever FIS either.
No, but we did used to have it in nationals. The last one was actually 2007, and I think it was at night at Howelson. And I can't remember her last name now, but Suzanne like had a spiral tib fib fracture from it because she like hooked a gate wrong.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's finally when the U.S. team was like, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. We'll do like a parallel slalom format, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, that's a good recap on race. I'm glad that you've had that experience, because it's kind of.
Oh, yeah.
I think amazing skiers come out of that, and I think it's an important part of the sport. Obviously overshadowed, I think, by maybe the free ski aspect of telemark, or the fun aspect. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think that's a lot of the friends when Steamboat started doing the like tele free ride program. Like I was just talking to Wyatt about this today, or maybe yesterday, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, like the racers were so lame," and I was like, "That's funny because we didn't think you guys were lame." But like
it doesn't go both ways.
Yeah, it's like the free riders are like, "Oh yeah, like the racers are just taking the sport, like we're supposed to be chill and like jump off things and like hit jumps or like, you know, and have fun with it and like slarv around," and the racers are like, "You have to carve all the time and go fast." I
like that you use slarv in like a sentence without hesitating.
Oh yeah.
It's like in the vernacular now. That's amazing. Well, no, so this brings up an interesting point, because then I knew you kind of more as you transitioned to doing Freeski comps, because we were involved with the one at Targhee, and so you were coming to those. And interestingly enough, you kind of bring up a point about Freeskiing that I think I learned through that is 15 years ago, I think competition in general, like Freeski comps, people were really into it. Like they really wanted to compete. And I think there's a small sliver of people, but when I started seeing you at Freeski comps, it almost seemed like people didn't really want to take it that seriously. I think people really wanted to see each other and like ski and hang out and drink beer and slarv. But no one really like cared if they won. And I think that's where like Freeski stuff kind of had a hard time, because it was like the cost to put those events on. Which then the cost that you had to pay as a competitor to then not potentially win any money, and it kind of got, but everybody loved hanging out together. So
totally.
Was that kind of the vibe am I hitting the nail on the head, I guess?
Well, and I think too, like, my first Freeheel life comp was 2016. So I was a senior in college, and it was my first year doing not racing. And I was still training with the Alpine team at MSU because the head coach was like, "Oh, you have such a positive attitude, like show the freshmen how it's done, you know." And I was like, "Yeah, but I was a telemark racer." He's like, "Yeah, but you were part of the team, just, you know, moving on." So when I went and did that comp for the first time, I was like, "Oh wow, I'm gonna meet all these freeskiers that like I've followed on Instagram, or like maybe have met, you know, at like movie showings that you used to host," but I never really got to like totally hang with them because I was a racer, and so there was just the like different. We were I was competing in Europe, and they were chilling in California, that kind of stuff. You know,
totally.
So it was cool to like start meeting people and just have that community. And I think, the first year I showed up not really expecting anything, and the women's field was always so small. So when I podiumed, I was like, "Oh, this is fun! Like I can still like be competitive." But I never got the feeling that it was a competitive thing. Like nobody got all in each other's heads or like trying to psych each other out. It was just like, you know, the whole like Vail Mountain School, or like the kids from Crested Butte. Like I remember them just being lined down the ridge atop Bobcat at Grand Targhee, and like they're all like clinking their poles for each other and just like, yeah, and like stoking each other up. And it was just like, that's what skiing should be. It should be fun and with your friends, and pushing each other to like ski harder.
So that brings up a good question, because I'm kind of curious about this. Should skiing ever be competitive?
Well, I don't know. It's like, it has been for a super long time. I think it's just like human nature to want to like win something, you know? But yeah, in this day and age in our society, it's definitely competitive. Should it be? Probably not, but like surfing or like skateboarding, like there's always a segment of competitors. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It always, maybe that always exists. Yeah, but I often wonder that if there's kind of a cultural shift, you know, like with competing in like free skiing, because it can kind of contradict itself in a way. Mm-hmm. You're taking like a subjective feeling of like, pick a line and ski it like you want to, and then like someone's like, actually that looked like shit. Line score 0, you know, and you're like, oh my god, like I had the best run of my life, and now you're destroyed. And I don't know, I think the camaraderie of it, the gathering of people, seems to overshadow the competitive nature, at least in the free ski thing. I guess it makes sense in the race realm, because like
typically we're not all like, hey, you want to ski on Sunday? And then we all show up like in like Lycra suits and we're like, hey, let's just take a couple runs head to head, or something like that. Like it makes sense. Like you're racing and there's a format and I don't know.
Yeah. And it's all like the same course.
Yeah.
Like it'd be one thing if you were like, here's this line, everybody ski it, and who skis it the best as far as like free skiing goes. But like with racing, it's like, yeah, this is the course. This is the size turn of the or the size.
The radius of the turn. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
But
that's a weird rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, one of the things I wanted to touch on that I think is cool is we kind of talked about how you got into Telemark, all that stuff, but you've been a ski patroller for a bunch of years. How many years now?
5.
Wow. That's a long time. Are you like top of the...
No. Oh my God, no.
Oh, probably not, because you're at Bridger Bowl, right?
Big Sky.
Oh, you're at Big Sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ski at Bridger Bowl, but I work at Big Sky.
Uh-oh. Are you allowed to say that?
I say it. I get ridiculed for it right and left, but like, I'm just going to do me.
Did you patrol it at Bridger ever?
No.
Always at Big Sky?
Uh-huh.
Because it's... Oh, yeah, because if you're at Big Sky now, because Moonlight's not... That's all part of Big Sky at this point.
Yeah, they merged in 2013, so 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Walk me through what made you want to get into patrolling.
Well, so it actually all stems from wanting to be a river guide. So my parents are big river people, and we used to go on, multi-day trips all the time in the summer. And probably when I was like 13, I started realizing that you could be a guide. Like you could be on the river all the time. That could be your job, which rowing boats all the time. Yeah. Sign me up. Like sleeping on sandy beaches and running big water. So eventually when I graduated college, I had wanted to guide through college, but it just never really worked out. And so my first year out of college, I went up to Glacier and was guiding on the Middle Fork of the Flathead River. And I had worked at the local co-op, the food co-op in Bozeman, for like 6 months prior to that summer. And I was like, wow, I have a college degree and I'm making sandwiches for rich white moms in like a college town, and the co-op pays like trash. It was so dumb. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I was like, I need something in the wintertime to fill my brain and do something positive, productive, and using my brain. So when I got off of that river season, I had taken my wilderness first responder while I was working at the co-op. And I was like, oh, emergency medicine's kind of cool. And then when I got back from the river that summer, I started thinking about patrolling and getting my EMT. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole because I was like, then I could ski all the time. I could help people, use my brain, and like mainly ski all the time. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then as the years have progressed, it's just been the perfect balance because you don't have to choose between a winter job and a summer job, or choosing winter over summer because the seasons are always changing. So you just go from river season to winter and guiding to patrolling, and yeah, it's
so is it full time in the winter?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Okay. So do all mountains have volunteer and pro patrol?
I'm not sure I know some mountains only have volunteer, but Big Sky does have a pro and volunteer.
So you're
program.
a pro patrol then?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Is that a pretty big jump when people get in to the patrol arena? Like you're just volunteering. I mean, pro patrol. I mean, it sounds like, you've dedicated some time. Like you've got the emergency medicine. You've got, there's a lot that goes with that. I mean, you're throwing bombs and stuff too?
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What was that like? I've always wondered that. Like, are you throwing like hand charges and stuff?
Yeah. So they're 2-pound shots of PETN, pentolite. And then we at Big Sky use double cap infuse, and it's just black powder attached to a cap. And so those are rigged through the shot. And then you have little cardboard igniters, pull wire fuse igniters, and rip them off and then throw them. Sometimes we'll use like bags of ANFO, ammonium nitrate, and like fertilizer essentially, for bigger shots, usually testing slope stability in either early season, or if we just like have a hunter, if it's a really big path that people ski all the time, like Liberty Bowl off the summit. But yeah, sometimes you're attaching them to bomb trams that you're still lighting them yourself. But there's no like far away detonation.
Is the bomb tram like the rope that goes kind of out across? Is that what that is?
Essentially, yeah. They can be of rope or cable or, yeah. Sometimes we'll even use like construction. We call them dangles, but they're like construction tape. So you can tie it onto an end of that and then let out, 60 feet or whatever and chuck it. And then you can kind of scoot it up the snow and get it where you want it.
Whoa.
Yeah. Or to blow up cornice too.
Are there, like the little tube things that you're starting to see at resorts? Is that maybe?
Like the Gas X?
Yeah.
The big like balloon looking things or like metal looking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like avalanche safety stuff too, right? Just more sophisticated.
Yeah, so those are propane and oxygen.
So it's just like a blast coming out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more of an air blast.
What a bummer! You're not even going to be able to throw hand charges in like 10 years or something. It's all automated.
Yeah, well, it's interesting though because those, they work in places like on Teton Pass, for example, or like bigger slide paths like above the head wall at Jackson Hole and stuff, or even at Alta. I don't know the lingo here, but where we have those.
That's exactly what I was thinking actually, because I think they put those in a few years ago. So,
or it would make sense, for like Little Cottonwood Canyon, like all the slide paths that go over the road. But yeah, Big Sky. I mean, we could probably put them in a couple places, but they are pretty big. So I don't know. Yeah.
So big question that always comes up. I've had a couple patrollers on that are Telemark skiers. Does it even matter in your patrol? Like if you're a Telemark skier, are there actual disadvantages to like taking a toboggan down, like getting in and out of your skis? I would think walking them out, traversing and like doing rope work, like I would think I would rather have a Freeheel, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think you're a lot more agile on Telemark skis on patrol. Like you're always going to get made fun of because you're a Telemark skier and you've chosen to be that way. So like, I don't know, people can give you as much shit as they want for it.
What if it's a calling? What if you
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a choice. Come on.
True. But no, yeah, I mean, we have 20 telemarkers on patrol. Our patrol's pretty big. It's like 110 people.
Yeah, but 20, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got some force behind you.
Totally. Like the other day, I was responding to something and I realized I was looking around and there were 6 of us on scene and I was like, 5 of us are on Telemark skis. There's only 1 Alpiner here.
Did you just chuck them off the side of the run or something?
And those don't matter.
This is our chance.
Yeah. No, it was awesome to see that. And yeah. I mean, as far as riding toboggans, like you don't drop a knee when you're in the horns. Like that's
could
silly.
you?
You could, but your tail would probably get run over, So, I mean, and a lot of times too, when I'm patrolling, I like to call it commuting. Like if I'm just commuting from point A to point B, odds are I'm probably straight lining. Like I'm not like actually making any kind of turn, telemark or otherwise. So it's like if I'm skiing on patrol, I'm dropping the knee. But like if I'm just commuting somewhere, like you can just stand on your skis. Like I know a lot of people know that, but if you want to make the argument of that it's slower or whatever,
I don't even it's interesting that we still have this conversation. I mean, even me asking the question seems kind of silly to me, but it does come up. People write in or say stuff about or even like a patrol like won't let them telemark ski, or they have to like pass this, like the toboggan always. The only reason I've never even tried skiing with a toboggan, but it seems like that constantly comes up as if it's some point of contention whether or not you can go down the hill with it. Like you're going to get pitched forward, or I don't know, like you're jumping a mogul with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know this probably sounds silly when I say that, but I'm serious. Like I think people literally are like, I mean, on older gear I can maybe understand, but like on an NTN setup, I'm like, that doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like, do you know how many like telly dads and moms you see just like standing on their skis and making turns on groomers? Like you can do that in the horns of a toboggan and just I
didn't know it was called the horns of the toboggan.
Oh yeah,
that's
so
pretty metal. I like that. The horns of the toboggan. I'm gonna start. That'd be a great bluegrass band name for like après ski.
Oh yeah,
the horns of the toboggan. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
You know what also is funny is I was driving over here on the interstate and there was a big billboard for Lamb of God.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, sick. Like, they're coming to play a show here.
Oh, no.
And then it was like some Jesus like play. And I was like, oh, not that Lamb of God.
You're in Salt Lake City. It could be Lamb of God, the metal band. But that's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Now all these listeners are going to be like, Lamb of God metal band. What are you talking about?
Go look it up.
Yeah, go look it up. Send me your response. That's funny. Wow. Wow. That threw me for a loop. I'm kind of laughing that happened to you, actually.
Yeah, just side tangent on metal bands.
Horns of the Toboggan. It all started with the Horns of the Toboggan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, so I guess you've got a pretty good gig going on. I mean, that's kind of a modern day ski bum.
Yeah.
We were talking, with the rent thing and you have like 2 legit jobs, but you're seamlessly going from one to the other, right?
Yeah.
At this point.
Mm-hmm.
You actually, I was just talking to my friend Rachel Burks.
Oh yeah, I skied with her today.
You skied with her today?
Yeah, 1 lap.
That's so funny. I bumped into her at the bottom of Alta and she's like, you know Maddie? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, we were on the river together. And she was so pumped. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. What a crazy path crossing. Because I think she was like a friend's birthday, or was it like a family trip? I can't remember what she said.
Yeah, it was her aunt and uncle booked the trip and brought her cousin, and then cousin's brother was supposed to go, but I think he like separated his shoulder before the trip. So they were like, cousin Rachel, like, you want to get in on this? And she was like, I love river trips. And I work for like a pretty like high-end Middle Fork company on the salmon these days, because I moved from the Flathead over to the salmon. So it's a 6-day trip through the heart of the Frank Church Wilderness, and it is lovely, and I recommend you all go if you ever get the chance. But Rachel shows up with her cousin Bailey, and they like have their pit vipers on and like their beer koozies around their neck, and they were like, which boat has the beer and we want it? And I was like, well, I'm the lunch boat today, so I actually have the beer, and come aboard, ladies. And then like as the trip went on, like we started figuring out that Rachel is a pro skier, and we were all just like, whoa. But she was so fun. She had a whole bag of wigs and costumes, and like there were some kids on the trip, so she got them in wigs, and she had a portable disco ball, which is now in my possession. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To like do, river discos, and it's, you can charge it with a tiny cord, and
she's great.
Oh my God.
When I
so fun.
Like the minute she said you guys met, I was like, that's actually like a really good match.
Yeah.
Like you guys probably got along really, really well, actually.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think that was one of my favorite trips of the summer. Was
that's awesome.
That trip. But yeah.
Is Carl on?
Carl Heath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he on the same, are you guys at the same company or same zone? He's on the salmon too though, right?
Yeah, he's also Middle Fork at the salmon, but we're not even on the same launch day. But yeah.
Skiers everywhere.
I know.
that seems like that's a spot where more and more people are finding that area is Idaho in general.
Yeah.
Poor Idaho.
Sorry, Idaho.
Sorry, Idaho. No, I feel like, I can complain about Utah as much as I want, but I feel like Idaho is like, there's still like some spots there that people kind of haven't figured out, but they're probably starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's one of them where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, link in bio. you can go take a river trip with Maddie.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so I'm trying to think what else I wanted. You have a plethora, like we have a lot of angles to go here. We got the race, we got the Freeski, you got the patrol thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of curious, like with I was telling you before we got on, I have a hard time. People are always like, get more girls on the podcast. And I'm like, yes, I want to. It kind of made me wonder from your perspective. I'm always asking how we grow the sport. That's like the classic question. How do we grow telemark? Whether it's racing or free ski or for women, men, whoever. Like, do you see, I guess being in Montana, like, do you see a lot of women telemark skiers? Do you think, I don't know, like what could we do to grow that side of it? Because I remember back in the day, there was like women's clinics everywhere, and, like Backcountry Babes started primarily as like a telemark thing. I don't know, like what you've been in this long enough. I'm just kind of curious your take on it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, you need clinics or a sense of community to really start growing and doing outreach. And what it comes down to is like demos as well. Like you at Freeheel Life have a great thing going, and that's awesome. And you can take the tent up to Alta or wherever and do that. But a lot of times people are like, just how do I even go about finding a tele setup? Because they're not gonna, like, starting any new sport, you're not always trying to get like the most technical gear right off the bat, because you want to see if it's like right for you or whatever. So you're trying to find new setups. And yeah, I think just with the women aspect, it's just making it accessible. And what that means, like in my mind, is demos or clinics.
Just having availability.
Yeah, but you have to have people that are driven to do that kind of community outreach. And it's right now, it just doesn't really seem like maybe there is.
You're in a tricky. Bozeman used to be like a hotbed back in the day. I don't even know if the shops are. I'm going from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Roundhouse. Yeah. Northern Lights.
Well, Northern Lights is like strictly river stuff now, and they're like a different name. But
they're not even like. That's not even.
It's called Rivers, Lakes, and Oceans.
Oh.
So it's like Northern Lights, like whatever. It's not.
It's not that anymore.
Essentially, right now you can get Telemark gear new at Summit Ski and Bike, which those guys are awesome. Love them to death. Support them. And Montana Ski and Boot Fitter, which is new, which is sick. Like they have a really awesome operation going. And yeah, they even have like parts of all of the Outlaw X and stuff, which is great.
Now we're competing.
Yeah.
That's like our bread and butter forever. It is like having parts, which seems like a no-brainer. Like,
right.
Have parts.
Yeah. You're
like,
a shop.
If you're not going to carry, it was like someone sent me a picture today. They're like up in the middle of it was like Michigan. And they were like 22 designs bindings. And I was like, cool. Do they have boots? Nope. Which is funny. A lot of these shops have bindings, but no boots or even parts.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
that's a good point.
Keep going. I want to hear more about this.
But yeah, so I mean, essentially there's 2 shops, and if there are any Bozeman shop owners listening to this, like, sorry if I forgot you, but also do a better job marketing that you sell Telemark gear. Yeah. Because that's part of the problem too, is nobody says like, we have Telemark gear. It's like, I have so many people hitting me up on social media and like in person being like, where the hell do I find Telemark gear? And honestly, I'm always like, here's the link to the used Freeheel Life stuff.
Thank you very much.
One of my friends got one this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
She's doing it.
I'll cut you a check later.
Sick.
Affiliate link.
Yeah. But no, I mean, and then too, like, yeah, I've had some homies hit me up for that, and I'm like, yeah, Freeheel Life, and they're like, oh, I checked that, and the stock's low or whatever, because like used, just whatever, and now it's like the demo sale, and I'm like, okay, well, but
it's hard to even for us, like, that's what's so funny is like it's hard to keep up with the volume, because I think as we grow and more people thanks to people like you saying, hey, go here, it's like the used section's like in and out, in and out, in and out. I mean, if it's good, it's not going to last very long. Yeah. But see, and I even think like in your zone, like if you're in Big Sky, which is not next to Bozeman, I mean, you're like 45 minutes?
It should be a 50-minute drive. It turns into an hour and 10 often, but I think it's 42 miles.
Is it that busy?
Well, there's just a lot
of weather.
It's weather or construction traffic. There's a lot of building going on up at the Yellowstone Club. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Whole nother topic. Yeah, because I don't think you can get telegear in Big Sky, or you traditionally have not been able to get any up there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Grizzly Outfitters is the only place in Big Sky with 22 Designs jig.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And then, like, I know... sorry to get me on this topic, but Chalet Sports in Bozeman too, like, used to be like pretty tele oriented. Spencer Jonas used to work there, if you guys remember Spencer. Yeah. But nowadays you go in there and they're like, we won't even touch tele skis, and you're like, oh, okay, sick, guess I'll go somewhere else.
That's so, yeah.
So they don't have a jig either.
That was kind of like on the podcast a few weeks ago, I was talking about somebody wrote in, it was like a mailbag episode, and someone wrote in and was like talking about their experience at a demo, a Telemark demo, and they showed up and they were like, hey, do you guys have the 22 Designs links? And they're like, that binding's stupid, like, why would you want that? And they kind of like made fun of the person, and they were like super bummed out, and I'm like, I know, and that's what I was saying. I was like, hey, shop people, if you're doing a demo, like, just be nice. Like, don't be mean to people. Like, they just want to try it and see it, and maybe if you think it sucks, okay, like, give them your opinion if they ask, but don't deter them from the experience. I don't know. It's always weird when I hear that.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yes.
Well, appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is awesome.
This is fun.
You want to tell people where they can? I know you're like on social media. Do you want people following you on social media?
Yeah.
All right.
You can follow me on social media.
Where do they follow you on social media?
Well, honestly, I only have Instagram, but it's Telly_Madi, because if you don't have Telly in your name, are you even a Telemark skier? Which, honestly, I didn't have Telly in my name for a long time, and then when I switched to like Freeskiing and big mountain stuff, my dad was like, you should probably make your Instagram handle Telly_Madi. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I mean, everybody else is doing it. I was like, okay, thanks, Dad.
Is that how we got all these Telly_ people?
Yeah.
Telly-Tay, Telly-Madi.
Well, I think Tay was Telly-Tay before.
He was before?
I think so. But the last one that's holding out for a long time has been Corey Snyder. Corey, if you're listening, Ski Co Snide, you need to step it up.
What does that even mean?
Ski Corey Snyder, I think.
Oh. Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know.
What can people expect on your social media?
A lot of 69 jokes. People send me 69s they see in the wild, like the number. But yeah, I started doing that just to like be immature and make people laugh, and then people started sending me them at high volumes, and so sometimes my whole story in a day is just 69s on license plates or gas prices or whatever. But this year I've also adopted an alter ego. It's the resident astronaut. So I've been, because we didn't have a lot of snow and we still don't.
Okay.
And so like I'd be walking around on Scree, like up on the headwaters at work, and just be like, I'm on the moon. And now, so yeah.
The 69 thing is funny. I didn't, honestly, that thing you started doing that like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I think I thought it was like a passing fad or something. I was just like, oh, this is funny. And like, it's still going. And honestly, it seems to have caught on. And I think you might be the first one to have started that. Like I was at the Gold Miner's Daughter at the base of Alta on World Telemark Day, or maybe it was the day before. Anyways, we ordered something, and you're waiting. They have like your ticket number.
Yeah.
And literally, we're sitting there and they're like, 69. And literally the whole place erupts like in applause. Like, yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is a thing now? So anyways, I think it all started with you. I just wanted to give you props.
Ooh, that's a really big... I don't think it was just me.
I'm not saying that it didn't exist prior, but I think there was a historic gap in 69 jokes until you brought it back, and now it seems to have propagated across all ski culture. So
yeah. Well, and then one last thing. I got on 69 yesterday on Collins, and I was with Cammie Abinator, and she was like, oh shit, yeah, like we just sat down on chair 69, and I was like, no way, like we didn't even try. And she's like, but they don't like to have fun here, so they took the number off, but there's a Freeheel life sticker on there.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Mm-hmm. And then I wrote it today with Rachel and by myself, and I wasn't even trying, so it's a sign.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, how did you pull that off?
I don't know, it just happens.
Wow. All right, on that note, signing off.
See you later.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Such a solid conversation. Always like to see Madi. She's been around doing the Telemark thing for many, many years, and always get to cross paths with her. And she's done a lot of different things, which was really fun to talk about, from World Cup experience to free skiing experience, working on patrol, and all that good stuff. So big thanks to her for coming on, and look forward to catching up with her again in the future. So before I take off today, just want to remind everybody, please sign up for the mailing list. There's a link in the show notes, and that is a great way to stay in touch with what we're doing. Obviously, and obviously down Southern Hemisphere, you guys are all starting to think about Telemark ski season. I'm going to be rolling the podcast out every Monday like I always do, and have a great assortment of guests and topics to cover. And if you're just going to check out for North American folks, you can always catch up later. But the mailing list is a great way to just stay in touch and be working on a bunch of stuff this summer. And always great to stay in contact with everybody. For those of you that enjoy listening to the podcast and the content that we're putting out, you can always support us by shopping at freeheellife.com. Summertime, we're going to be putting out a bunch of new lifestyle stuff this year, and some of that will be dropping here pretty soon. So keep an eye out on the website. You can find us on the social media as well at Freeheel Life. And if you want to email me, let me know. I'd love to hear what you thought about the podcast this winter, the topics, what's going on. Sometimes I hear a lot from people and sometimes I don't. But always welcome to email me at podcast@freeheellife.com. Thank you for listening. If you're an Apple Podcast listener, please take a second to rate and review the podcast to help me get a little more reach out to other folks so we can melt their brains and convert their alpine locked heelness and turn them into telemark skiers and make snowboarders do two toe-side turns. So thank you for doing that. Much love and respect, and I hope you're having a great spring. Things are starting to warm up where you're at. And hopefully you're still getting some turns in if you're really getting after it. But either way, I'll be back next Monday. And until then, spread telemark always.